All right, good morning, everybody. We're up real early, so a lot of these UK viewers will probably be able to tune in live, and it'll be probably about maybe 1 o'clock your time, I believe. So you'll be able to watch regular time instead of having to watch at the wee hours of the morning. So let's get started here, man. I'm gonna keep it 100% this morning. There's gonna be 100% objectivity here. We're going to really look at this Tyson Fury situation, this Tyson Fury ESPN deal objectively. All the emotion is torn out of it. Now, obviously, if you've been following the Ringsider Reporter podcast, we've been talking about this, and I've been saying all along that I'm gutted right now. I wanted to see this fight really, really bad, and I was very disappointed to find out that this fight with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, the rematch, is not happening next. But, I've had some time to think about it. And a lot of times when we act off emotion and we talk about something, we don't really look at it level headed. We don't look at it with a clear head. We don't look at it, you know, probably as in depth as we should. So let's talk about this deal. Obviously, as people know who have been following me, following the channel, you guys know that I interviewed Bob Arum a couple days ago, about a week ago, and we talked about the Tyson Fury deal. And he came right out flat and told me that this 80 million pounds or this 100 million U.S. American dollars was bullshit. So already, what has been reported, as I talked about in the Ringside Reporter podcast with Eric and Robbie, we talked about this that the figures are wrong. Bob Arum could not confirm the figures, and he went as far as saying that if you asked me what the figures were, I couldn't even answer you. I wouldn't even begin to know what the figures are. So if you have a promotional deal with somebody, and it's supposed to be for a multi-fight deal, allegedly 5 fights, right? And ESPN is involved; they're the broadcaster. So you have, exclusivity to ESPN. Tyson Fury is exclusive to ESPN. He can only fight on ESPN in regards to the U.S. broadcast. So if all these people are involved, and it's so vague as to what the terms are of this contract, what the financial details are of this contract. Why is everyone saying this is such a great deal if we don't really know too much about it? Let's talk about what we do know. We do know that the numbers are bullshit. It's not $100 million deal. It's not 20 million a fight. So going by Bob Arum and what his statements were about this contract seems as though it's going to depend on who he fights, Tyson Fury, to determine how much money he's going to be getting. I mean, that's the only thing that I could come to. That's my only conclusion based off of Bob Arum's answer to my question. So if it's not $100 million deal, then he could be making, pretty much whatever, depending upon who he fights. So who could he fight over at Top Rank? Oscar Rivas, Joseph Parker, who has a co-promotion deal with Top Rank, Brian Jennings, Kubrat Pulev. So if you try to put Tyson Fury in with one of those guys, okay, and you make that, the main event of an ESPN card or an ESPN Plus card, how much interest do you think you're going to drum up in the United States public? Nowhere near is the amount of interest that you would drum up for Deontay Wilder rematch. I mean, Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, everyone was talking about that. ESPN, Fox, they were on mainstream radio. Deontay Wilder's been on mainstream radio, mainstream shows, and particularly the Breakfast Club, Sway in the Morning, all the big podcasts. They were both on Joe Rogan, which reaches millions and millions of people. So that they were really building up, a mainstream following, both of them. But now, if you put Tyson Fury in with one of these other top ranked guys, it's a shit fight, really. Hate to say it, but it's not a fight that people are going to be interested in. So now, also, we're finding out that Frank Warren has come out and say that it wasn't their decision to not have the Tyson Fury rematch next. It was ESPN's decision. And we already saw the writing on the wall because top rank Bob Arum said that he would rather have both fighters have an interim fight in between before the rematch. For whatever reason, I don't know why. Bob Arum said that he wants the Terence Crawford Errol Spence fight right away. He doesn't think it needs to be built up. Why would this fight, after that climactic ending, need to be built up again? Everyone wants to see this rematch really bad. Why not strike when the iron's hot? So they're blaming ESPN. So once again, that leads me to believe that, okay, so you signed this deal and ESPN is broadcasting the fights in the United States. So they have to approve the opponent. So if ESPN doesn't want you to fight Deontay Wilder next, they want you to fight someone else next, then how great is that if you sign this deal and you can't fight who you want to fight? You're going to be told who to fight. So you don't know how much you're going to be getting paid every fight. Or maybe you do, I don't know. But Bob Arum seems to say that he doesn't know how much you're going to be getting paid every fight, and he's your promoter, and he's the guy that's paying you. So if he doesn't know how much he's going to pay you every fight, and you don't have the ability to choose who you want to fight, you're going to be told who to fight by ESPN. Now, even though Bob Arum is the promoter, I guess he has to float the fights by ESPN. He's got to propose the fights to ESPN, and I guess ESPN's got to decide whether or not they want to televise the fight. Same situation with Andre Wood when he had that deal with HBO. How many times did he, bring a fight to the table to HBO, and they said, no, we're declining that. We're not going to show it. So how good is this deal if you don't have guaranteed purse, a guaranteed minimum per fight, which I don't know if you do or you don't, but Bob Arum seems to say that you don't because he doesn't know how much you're getting paid every fight. If you had a guaranteed minimum, he'd be able to come up with a figure, I would assume, right? I mean, I'm not grasping for straws here. I'm making some pretty logical points here. So you have a multi-fight deal, and you don't know how much, you don't know who you're going to fight because you can't pick your own opponents. And you don't know how much you're going to get per fight. So how great is this deal? And then allegedly they made a deal with Deontay Wilder. Not allegedly. Bob Arum confirmed that he sent a proposal over to Deontay Wilder. So now, basically, from what Shelley Fickle says, the deal entailed that Deontay Wilder had to sign to Top Rank and give them a couple fights guaranteed. And he had to basically sign over to ESPN. So Deontay Wilder basically had to give his career and put his career in the hands of Top Rank and ESPN and lose all of his decision making, Whereas right now, Deontay Wilder is a free agent. He could fight wherever he wants. He could fight whoever he wants. And he can fight on whatever network he wants. This reminds me back in the day with the Don King days. The Don King days when a fighter wanted to fight a Don King fighter, when Don King had all the heavyweight champions. Don King would say, yeah, you could fight him, but you're going to have to sign over, give me, your next 3 or 4 fights in order for you to get this title shot. Bob Arum is pulling an old school Don King move, saying, so basically, if you want to fight my fighter, you're going to have to, commit to me for 3 or 4 fights or whatever. Give me a multi-fight commitment, or I'm not going to give you the fight. Well, what kind of bullshit is that? What kind of strong-arm bullshit is that? So basically, you're crying with the Errol Spence situation that you can't get a fight with Terence Crawford against Errol Spence. You're crying about how the Heyman fighters don't want to work. Heyman doesn't want to work with you, and he's not going to allow the Heyman, his fighters to fight your guys. Meanwhile, you're trying to work with a Heyman fighter only if that Heyman fighter signs over his promotional rights to you. So you're basically trying to steal one of Heyman's fighters. Well, technically, Heyman's the advisor, so he still could advise Deontay Wilder if he signed over the top rank, just like, Alito Alvarez is an Al Heyman fighter, and he has a top rank deal. But again, you're going to have control more over Deontay Wilder's career. So if he signs that deal to you, he's going to have to fight who you want him to fight. He's going to have to fight who ESPN wants him to fight. So I guess the plan all along was a power play to try to leverage himself, Bob Arum, to try to leverage himself into getting Deontay Wilder in his stable. Sort of like, the Don King playbook. You want a shot at the title? You got to sign over your promotional rights to me. Give me your next 3 fights, or you don't get the title shot. They did that to Tim Witherspoon. Tim Witherspoon, when he fought Larry Holmes, he had to sign a contract with Don King. Win, lose, or draw, you got to give me your next 3 or 4 fights. So this is kind of a bunch of bullshit, really. Now that I had time to really look at this and think about it, they're trying to portray to you that this is such a power move. And it really isn't, because Bob Arum doesn't have any of the top heavyweight. He has some top 10 he has heavyweights that are ranked in the top 10, but he doesn't have the marquee heavyweights. He doesn't have Dillian White. He doesn't have Deontay Wilder. He doesn't have, Anthony Joshua. And in order to make the fights that everyone really cares about, he's going to have to, cross the aisle and deal with other promoters. So if this was the plan all along, to try to, lure Deontay Wilder into a multi-fight deal and using ESPN as leverage to do so, thinking that Deontay Wilder was just going to, throw all caution into the wind and just give you everything, give you all of his rights and all of his, freedom, basically asking Deontay Wilder to sell you his freedom to get a Fury fight. Meanwhile, Deontay Wilder is the champion. He's the missing piece to the puzzle. All roads at the end of the day are going to lead to Deontay Wilder because he has that WBC belt. And as long as he has that WBC belt, opinions are going to vary, but he's always going to have claim to being the best heavyweight in the world until someone takes that belt from him. Now, you can argue back and forth who won that Tyson Fury fight with Deontay Wilder. I think Tyson Fury clearly won the fight. But I cannot ignore or deny the fact that Tyson Fury was less than a half second away from being knocked out. He got up, and he barely survived by the skin of his ass in that fight. Now, I'm not going to play, psychologist here. I'm not going to try and climb in Tyson Fury's head. But I am going to say this. It's not out of the realm of possibility to think that maybe Tyson Fury said to himself, I was outboxing this guy and frustrating this guy pretty much all night. I was leaning on this guy. I was holding this guy. I was putting all my weight on this guy. Later in the fight, I was actually starting to stun this guy. Now, you didn't stagger him. You didn't really put him in danger of being knocked out, but you stunned him. You hurt him a little bit. And he admitted as much that, you had some, you were a big guy and he felt you. After all of that, he was still able to pull out that bazooka and blast you with it and almost pretty much decapitate you in that last round. So I know Andre Ward's saying, you know what? He was saying beforehand, maybe that Deontay Wilder doesn't want to deal with Tyson Fury's style again because it's such a tough style to deal with, such a tricky style to deal with. But the flip side to that is I outclassed this guy all night. And I frustrated him all night. And because of that frustration, I could see, a little bit of fatigue setting in because he was throwing so many heavy punches and missing. And obviously he was probably, he looked fatigued to me. And after all of that, he was still able to do what he did in that 12th round. he could be saying to himself, you know what? I don't want to deal with this again. Tyson Fury could be saying, I'm not saying he is, but he could be saying, after all I did, and in the 12th round, he was still able to do what he did. And literally, I was out. I was out cold. And it was a miracle that I was able to come to and get up with a half second left. We can't ignore that. So Deontay Wilder is a special fighter when it comes to having the gift of that power. Because most guys who had that power, they after this, usually after the 6th round or whatever, they would either get tired and they wouldn't be the same fighter in the second half of the fight, or they would either kill or be killed. They would either knock you out or they would get knocked out. Julian Jackson was one of those types of fighters where he would either knock you out or you would get knocked out. Terry Norris was very similar to that in a lot of situations when he tried to approach a fight and really tried to go for the knockout. We saw what Simon Brown did to him when he tried to go toe-to-toe with him. But Deontay Wilder is one of those rare breeds that he carries that power the whole fight. He's a danger. He's a threat the whole fight. If he has 3 seconds left in the 12th round and he lands that shot, there's a chance that you're not going to get up. That's one thing that none of the other heavyweights, or probably no other fighter, I dare to say, in boxing, has that ability that Deontay Wilder has. He has freakish power. Freakish power. So Tyson Fury could be saying to himself, what happens if he lands that right hand earlier in the fight? Or what happens if he lands that right hand again and I don't wake up this time? And ESPN could be thinking that too. Who knows? But that, basically that's my assessment of this whole situation. How good is this ESPN deal if you can only fight Oscar Rivas, Brian Jennings, Joseph Parker, Kubrat Pulev? Who cares about those fights? Can anyone honestly say that they would be excited for those fights if those fights were to happen? So people can say what they want. Deontay Wilder, doesn't have a multi-fight deal. And I've said before, and I've gone on record as saying, usually the top guys in the sport, the highest paid guys in the sport, like when Floyd Mayweather was the highest paid guy in the sport, now Canelo Alvarez is the highest paid fighter in the sport, they have multi-fight deals and they have guaranteed minimums, which are pretty substantial. But, Tyson Fury, it was being sold to us that he had a deal similar to a Canelo Alvarez, similar to a Floyd Mayweather, even similar to an Anthony Joshua. But after that interview with Bob Arum, he revealed pretty much that he doesn't. He revealed that he doesn't. And after hearing this news that Frank Warren came out and said, well, we have to fight who ESPN tells us to. So you're giving up your freedom. You're signing a multi-fight deal without a guaranteed minimum. How great is this deal? Is he really in a better situation than Deontay Wilder, who's a free agent, who can negotiate his purses fight by fight, who can fight who he wants to fight, where he wants to fight, when he wants to fight, who still has his career in his hands. He still has his freedom. He's not going to be sucked into a Don King okey doke move, which seems to be what this Tyson Fury deal is with Bob Arum and Top Rank and ESPN. Now, you guys have to understand something. A lot of you guys that haven't been watching the sport for a long time. Bob Arum, although he has transcended and evolved, and he's still around in today's boxing, he still has that old school mentality where, you know what? I want to work with other promoters, great, but I'm going to try, and get all the fighters I can. Don King and him used to steal each other's fighters all the time. They used to steal each other's fighters all the time. They used to sue each other all the time. So this bullshit about Bob Arum wanting to work with other promoters, again, he would rather do in-house fights over working with other promoters regardless. Even if it's the best move for his fighters to cross the aisle. I told you guys several times before, and this is my opinion, but it's pretty much common knowledge. A promoter does not act in the best interest of the fighter. The promoter acts in the best interest of the promotional company. Their job is to put themselves in a situation where they're going to maximize their returns. Whereas Al Heyman, who is an advisor, who takes 10% as opposed to 20% like everybody else, 30% like everybody else, he's an advisor. He gives the fighter options. He lays out the options and the fighter chooses. Not the top rank situation where the fighter signs with top rank and top rank makes the decisions. The network makes the decisions. So we don't know at all what Tyson Fury is going to make per fight. We don't know. We don't even know if it's going to be more than what Deontay Wilder makes per fight. It's been reported that Eddie Hearn had said, we're willing to give him $15 million to fight a voluntary, and we don't even want exclusivity. We don't even want to lock him down. All we want to do is sign him to an interim fight and an Anthony Joshua fight, and that's all we want. We don't want a multi-fight deal from him. So what if he decides to say, okay, Eddie, I'll take that $15 million for an interim fight, and then he gets the Joshua fight after that? Where does that leave Tyson Fury? You think Tyson Fury, if he fights Kubrat Pulev or Oscar Rivas or Joseph Parker next, do you think that he's going to make more than Deontay Wilder if Deontay Wilder takes that Eddie Hearn offer? So, you tried to lock Deontay Wilder down. You didn't want to be locked down. Tried to, sell this ESPN deal as a game changer. How could it be a game changer if Tyson Fury is going to be fighting guys that no one cares about? And also, I'm a big Tyson Fury fan. I think he's the best heavyweight in the world. But his style is not appealing to most people. Particularly casual fans are not going to take to that style. And he tends to fight down to the level of his opposition. So if he's fighting somebody that's not really a threat, he's not going to go after them. He's going to box them. He's going to box them. He's going to let them come to him. So if those are the type of fights that are going to be broadcast in ESPN, I just don't see how Tyson Fury is going to build any momentum in the United States. I don't see it. I really don't see it. I don't see how this is such a great deal now that I think of it. Now that I think of the purses, from what I understand, according to Bob Arum, are not guaranteed. The figures are not determined. It's based on a fight-to-fight basis, according to Bob Arum, from the way he answered the questions. And ESPN and Top Rank are telling you who to fight. So if there's a bigger fight out there that you want, and Bob Arum and ESPN can't work out a deal where they can co-promote with somebody, then you're fucked. Whereas Deontay Wilder, who has an advisor who gives him options where he can make a decision himself, and he can negotiate a purse himself, along with his management team, of course, but he's the guy that puts the final stamp on everything. Tyson Fury can say, I don't want to fight. But then again, if he says that, then he loses out on a payday. So if ESPN and Bob Arum comes up on an opponent and he pitches it to ESPN, this is what we want to do next. What date do you have for us? And ESPN says, no, we don't want to do that. Or ESPN says, yeah, but Tyson Fury says, no, I don't want to do that. Then he loses the date. Whereas Deontay Wilder can just move on to the next one. So I could see Canelo's deal, which has guaranteed minimums. And it has, a substantial amount of money. Anthony Joshua's deal, guaranteed minimums, from what I understand. Multi-fight. But this deal right here with ESPN, after everything that I've been looking at here and just kind of hearing everything, and after having that conversation with Bob Arum last week, this deal really doesn't look that good to me. And again, there's a lot that we don't know, but I'm going off what we do know. What we do know is Frank Warren has said that ESPN did not want the Deontay Wilder rematch next. We do know that, according to him. We do know that Bob Arum said the 80 million pounds and the $100 million is bullshit. The interview's on my YouTube channel. Feel free to check it out. It says Arum says the deal is not for 80 million pounds. That's bullshit. Check it out. So we do know that. And we also know that Tyson Fury is not fighting Deontay Wilder next. And we also know that in order for that fight to have happened next, Deontay Wilder would have had to sign his life away, which he did not want to do. Those are the things we do know. So this is supposed to be a power move, but really, how much power do you really have if you can't get the big fights? Okay, and you don't, and you yourself, you're not even a champion. And yeah, you can sell that lineal champion all you want, but again, no one gives a fuck about that. No one gives a fuck about that. You're entering that ring without a belt around your waist, and when you're being introduced, you are not being introduced as a world champion, an official champion. Your bouts are not being sanctioned by a championship organization. Okay, so that's it, guys. Let's just sum it all up with Tyson Fury does not have a guaranteed minimum per fight. He can't choose who he wants to fight, and he has to fight on ESPN. Though that's what we know. His fights have to be broadcast on ESPN in the United States. Whereas Deontay Wilder can choose who he wants to fight. He can negotiate his own purses, and he can fight on any network he wants to fight on. And you guys say that, he doesn't make a lot of money, no one cares about him. But Eddie Hearn apparently cares about him if he's willing to give him $15 million. Go on the Boxing Voices channel. He said it to Nestor Gibbs. We will give him $15 million for an interim as well as a Joshua fight for double that. So $15 million plus $30 million. Now, Eddie Hearn is a bullshit artist. He lies a lot. But let's just say, he's in the ballpark. 15 million, 30 million. That's 45 million for 2 fights. Okay? Is Tyson Fury getting 45 million for 2 fights? Kubrat Pulev? Oscar Rivas? Brian Jennings? Fucks no. That ain't happening, guys. So you guys could sit there and say no one cares about Deontay Wilder. But every time Anthony Joshua fights, regardless of who the opponent is, all the questions that he's asked are about, a great deal of them are about Deontay Wilder. All the questions that Tyson Fury's been asked these last couple of weeks, ever since he signed that ESPN deal, have been about Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder is a piece to this puzzle that is not going to go away as long as he has that WBC belt. I know I keep saying that, but it's got to get through. And Eddie Hearn has admitted that his profile has grown immensely since they first started negotiations and they first started trying to make a fight with Joshua. Now they're saying, Eddie Hearn's saying, okay, yeah, we can do the fight in the United States. Now they're saying, okay, we could possibly give him 50-50. Now they're saying, okay, we'll give him a rematch clause. 2-way. So Anthony Joshua supposedly is the A side, and you could argue that. I'm not going to go against that. But why is the A side all of a sudden making all these concessions? If you are the A side, then why are you making all these concessions to Deontay Wilder? Why are you changing your tune? Why are the things that you said you would never do? Oh, we're never going to give him a percentage. Oh, 15 million, that's the final offer. Oh, we're going to fight him. If he wants to fight us, he has to come over to the UK. We've built that market over there. We deserve the right to have him come over here and fight in the UK. Now you're changing your tune, all those things. But you're the A side. Why is the A side making concessions? Think about this, guys. Deontay Wilder is not in a bad spot. He's not. He's not. And the boxing public, there's going to be backlash for what Fury did. He's going to be criticized. And every time he's asked, basically, why is this fight not happening next? And he decides to say, well, it wasn't my choice. How the fuck can you say it wasn't your choice? You chose to put yourself in a situation where someone else is going to tell you who to fight, when to fight, where to fight, and how much money you're going to get. You've lost all of your freedom, basically. You sold your soul. And what do you get in return for that? Because Eddie Hearn really wants to make that Deontay Wilder fight. Anthony Joshua really wants that Deontay Wilder fight. And they want to do 2 fights. So say Deontay Wilder fights Brazil next. Okay? Say Anthony Joshua beats Big Baby Miller. So that's June. So they probably won't fight until next year. And then if they fight next year, and then they fight again, that's 2 fights tied up, which that's another year. So you probably won't be able to get a big fight until 2021. So for the next 2 years, you're going to be fighting fighters that nobody cares about, that really aren't going to do well ratings-wise. I don't see how this is going to help build your brand. I don't see how this is a power move. I don't see how this gives you strength. This move weakens you. This move weakens you. The more I think about it, this move is probably a bad move. Time will tell, and I could be wrong. Time will tell, and I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. The way this looks now, Tyson Fury quite possibly probably won't get a title shot until 2022. Until 2022. If next year is tied up between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua fighting twice, fighting each other once and then having the rematch. You know? Because if they, if Deontay Wilder has an interim fight after his next fight, and then Anthony Joshua has an interim fight after the Big Baby Miller fight, then this thing could be pushed back to the end of 2022. Tyson Fury, or maybe even the beginning of 2023. So he basically locked himself out of big fights by doing this deal, in my opinion. There's a lot of bad scenarios that I'm seeing when I really think of the landscape and how this thing can play out. Let's go over it one last time before we head out of here. Big Baby Miller loses to Anthony Joshua. Deontay Wilder fights Dominic Brazil next. Okay? So that brings them to May and June. So possibly they could squeeze a fight out in December. They could fight each other in December and then have a rematch after that December fight in the middle of 2020. Or they could fight interim opponents in December and then end up fighting in the middle of 2020 and then having a rematch at the end of 2020. So that would freeze Tyson Fury out to 2021. So the way this looks on all sides is Tyson Fury, his next 2 or 3 fights are probably going to be against nondescript opponents that people don't care about. And Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder have the potential to really make a super fight, a mega fight, a huge fight. Because people could say whatever they want, but the Anthony Joshua Deontay Wilder fight is the biggest fight in heavyweight boxing. Arguably, it's the biggest fight in boxing altogether. Not to say that the Tyson Fury fight between Anthony Joshua wouldn't be big. Not to say that the Tyson Fury fight between Deontay Wilder wouldn't be big, but it just wouldn't be as big as Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. Eddie Hearn has admitted as much. That's the fight they want badly. They're begging for that fight right now. Eddie Hearn is basically, you guys say that Deontay Wilder is a nobody. He's irrelevant. Eddie Hearn, go listen to the interviews. Go listen to that last interview. He's begging Nestor Gibbs, call him and tell him to call me. Is that how an A-side talks? He's begging for a fight with a guy that he thought a year ago was irrelevant. A year ago, he called this guy irrelevant. Nobody cares about him. And now you're begging for a fight. You're begging for a fight with this guy. You're like that boyfriend now that broke up with the girl, and now you want her back. Oh, she was trash when I was going out with her, but now you realize that you don't have anybody, and the people that you're around and you're being with, going on a few dates, and these girls aren't measuring up to the girl you had before. So now you want the old girl back. Now he's starting to see the backlash from the public. He's starting to see the repercussions of underestimating Deontay Wilder's worth, underestimating Deontay Wilder's popularity, underestimating the fact that Deontay Wilder is one of the greatest self-promoters I've ever seen. And he built himself up immensely in this last year and a half. His profile has increased immensely. So now, all of a sudden, that girlfriend that you threw out, you went out there and saw that, you tried to play the field and go out there and look at the other fish in the sea, and you found out that, hey, they're not as good as the other fish, the fish that I once had before. So now you're that jealous. Now you're that boyfriend, that simp that's crying back to the girl after breaking up with her and saying she was trash. Okay? So that's what this looks like, man. That's what this looks like right now. And I question this deal. You already know that. But that's all I got, man. Let me see if anyone's in the chat. I haven't even opened up my this video on my phone to actually look at the chat. Let me see. Maybe I can answer some questions from some of you guys. See what you guys think. Let's go back and forth. See who's in the chat right now. 24 people in there. Let's open up the chat. All right. Okay, Fury wielded Wilder just like Wilder wielded AJ, or Wildered AJ. Okay. Joshua versus Wilder is looking more likely now. Fury can fight the winner on a big pay-per-view co-promotion. What the ESPN deal gives Fury is guaranteed money in America outside of Showtime pay-per-view. I just told you that it doesn't give him guaranteed money, because I asked Bob Arum last week, does he have guaranteed purse? And he said, I don't even know what he's going to be making fight by fight. So again, listen, you have to really listen to what's being said here. I have the video. I asked Arum about the deal. He said, if you asked me about the numbers, I wouldn't begin to know how to answer you. So there's not guaranteed money. It's good enough to get Fury to sign. End of story. Get Fury to sign what? Fury didn't want Wilder fight next. His team said that from the beginning. That's correct, Sean. But go back to the interview, okay, that I had with Bob Arum, and he said that they did send a proposal over to Deontay Wilder. So I'm going to correct you a little bit. They didn't want the Wilder fight next unless they can get Wilder to sign a multi-fight deal with them. That's the correct statement. That's the correct statement. They wanted the Wilder fight if they could lock him in to a couple fights and have him on top-ranked promoted events for a couple fights broadcast on ESPN. That's what they wanted, Sean. I mean, again, I'm telling the truth. I got the interview. I got the interview. Shelley Finkel, confirmed it, and they're not denying it. Pierce and Hardcore only really recognize lineal. I disagree. I disagree. Not everyone cares about lineal. Fury doesn't need a belt. Fans always fall for the blarney. Okay. Casuals can be educated by ESPN. We'll see. What are all these networks Wilder has fought on? I never said that he fought on a whole bunch of networks, but he has fought. He's fought on Fox, and he's fought on Showtime. That's what it is. And he can fight on ESPN. whereas Fury cannot fight on Fox and he cannot fight on Showtime unless ESPN allows it. Whereas Wilder can fight wherever he wants. He doesn't have to ask permission. Tyson Fury does. They want the fight. Remains to be seen. They probably want the fight, but they want it on their terms. They want to lock Wilder in, and they want to fight him when they want to fight him. Hearn's terms are getting quite attractive now to Wilder's position. Would not be surprised if DAZN Showtime works something out for a 2-fight deal. ESPN has introduced 3-way competition. Good. Coming off a draw. I don't know what that means, Sean, but okay. EJ Boxing said his soul, is in Bob's pocket. Newton, you trolling again. Fury wants Wilder versus AJ first. The winner will then have to come to. The winner doesn't have to come to him. He doesn't have a belt. He doesn't have a belt. No one has to fight him. And how is he going to build momentum if he's fighting Pulev and Rivas and Parker? It's just, you have to understand. And then Sean Newton responds to EJ, trolling, facts. What are the facts? The facts are, let's go over the facts. And I hate to belabor the point. The facts are, the money's not guaranteed. Bob Arum said it was bullshit. The facts are, according to Warren, and even according to Fury said, I fight who they want me to fight. Whoever they want me to fight, I'll fight. That's what he said. So according to Warren and Fury, he's basically fighting who's being picked for him. He can't choose his opponents. So he doesn't have guaranteed money. That's a fact. He can't choose his opponents. That's a fact. He can say no, but if he wants to fight somebody and Bob Arum doesn't want to promote it and ESPN doesn't want to broadcast it, the fight doesn't happen. Okay. Been so salty for a nationalist POV for a while now. England's adopted son, my ass. Fuck you. Fuck you, Uncle Burnt Apostrophe. You can't refute the facts that Fury cannot pick his own fights, and you cannot refute the fact that he doesn't have guaranteed minimums. Because it's all been confirmed by Bob Arum and Shelley Finkel and Tyson Fury and Frank Warren. All been confirmed. Fury, I believe, is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder after nearly being flatlined. Okay. Facts, Fury don't want that smoke. Sean Newton says, get the fuck out of here. He beat him coming out of... Sean Newton, I thought he won the fight. But again, he almost got knocked out. And that's why he was a half second away from being knocked out in that last round. Maybe he had an epiphany. Maybe he's thinking to himself, well, I don't want that again. After all I did to this guy, and he still came back and almost knocked me out. And I beat the count by the skin of my ass with a half second left. Maybe he doesn't want that. Fury has no belt or clout. No one is going to ESPN to fight that crackhead bum, which is what Jason said. I'm not going to co-sign those. Fury exposed Wilder. Fury didn't expose Wilder. We already knew he was technically flawed. Sean, we already knew he was technically flawed. How many times have we seen him outboxed in a fight and come back? Look at the Ortiz fight. He was losing that fight, and he knocked him out in the 10th round. That's scary when you're being outboxed the whole fight, and in the 10th, 11th, or 12th round, you have that eraser. Sean Newton boxing. Dude fought a crackhead and got schooled. Well, I thought he did. I thought he did get outboxed and outclassed in that fight. I had him losing the fight. I had Wilder losing the fight. I only had him winning 3 rounds in that fight. I think the decision was bad. But I still can't ignore the fact that Fury was a half second away from losing that fight himself. So it is what it is. All right. So who do you think Fury will defend his imaginary belt against? That's what Tone said. Sean Newton boxing. EJ, stop your BS. Public opinion is what's real. Public opinion. Okay, so Sean Newton, you want to go with public opinion? The public wanted the rematch. They're not getting the rematch. The public is pissed the rematch isn't happening. The public believes that Fury is the one that did not want the rematch because he came out and said it. I'll fight whoever. I don't have, I fight whoever they tell me to fight. It doesn't really matter. So the public believes that Fury didn't want this fight. You have to admit that. You have to be objective. I'm being objective. You have to be objective. Take the emotion out of it. Who's Wilder gonna fight next? Not a pay-per-view fight. Sean, go on the Boxing Voice and listen to Eddie Hearn. He told Nestor, I will give him $15 million for an interim fight. It could be wherever he wants. He said we'll even do it on Showtime. Doesn't even have to be on DAZN as long as he commits to an AJ fight next. What the fuck, Sean, are you not getting here? You have a cognitive dissonance. You have a cognitive dissonance. Wilder didn't perform, knows he was overdoing it, knows his mistake, and now he's confident he will flip Fury properly. That's Raphael Dawkins. Well, the fight doesn't have to be pay-per-view, EJ Boxing. You're correct. You're 100% correct. Wilder is free to fight on Showtime. LOL. He could fight on Fox. He could fight on ESPN. He could fight on DAZN. That's the facts of it. That's the facts of it, Sean. You just have to admit it. All right. Boxing, no shit, Sherlock. He doesn't need permission from your dishwashers, what Jason says. The ESPN has given Hearn another opportunity. Competition is good. Or you dick riders. I'm not a dick rider. I think that Fury would beat Wilder in a rematch, and I picked him to win the first fight, and I had him winning the first fight. So why would I be a dick rider? I just think that this ESPN deal really isn't what it's cracked up to be. If you can't choose your opponents and you don't have guaranteed minimums, and you can't fight Wilder next, and if the only way you're gonna fight Wilder is if he signs a multi-fight deal with ESPN or a multi-fight deal with Top Rank, which includes having a fight at ESPN, then that's not a good situation. So how are you gonna make the Joshua fight? Are you gonna make Joshua fight on ESPN too? How is ESPN and DAZN gonna work something out? This is a bad move, guys. AJ Starr, a star he has never been. What's the definition of a star? Like, what do you mean? He's like, what does that matter? He just got $15 million to fight, offered $15 million to fight an interim fight. And why does Joshua and Fury keep talking about Wilder? Why every time Joshua has a fight, all the questions are about Wilder? Come on, stop it. Stop it. Stop it, Sean. Stop it. All right. AJ made Wilder stock rise like the Jackson 5. Well, they probably did. They that's true. Okay. Jamal James sells more tickets than Lomachenko on PBC on the cards. Okay. All right. Let's go to a lot of crazy shit in here. Yeah, Sean Newton obviously is not really looking at this objectively. Beeb going on you, Newton. EJ's telling me. Okay. Why didn't you show last fight's results? Blah, blah. Well, here's the thing. What we do know now is a lot of these numbers are bullshit. In the UK, they don't have to. Sky, ask Adam Smith, who works for Sky. He came out and said Sky does not release the pay-per-view numbers. Sky and Matchroom Sport do not release the purse numbers to the BBC. So they could be telling us, you want to sit there and say AJ's this, AJ's that, and which he probably is, obviously a star, and he probably is making a lot of money. But we don't know exactly how much he's making. We don't know exactly how much pay-per-views he's really selling because the numbers don't have to be reported. They're not obligated to report the numbers. Okay, so we don't know. We don't know, Sean. We don't know what these results are. We can't see how many people are actually watching a fight on DAZN. Eddie Hearn was asked by Nestor Gibbs from the Boxing Voice, how do you know how many people are watching these fights when they're on DAZN? He said, I don't know. You have to ask John Skipper over at the guy who works at DAZN. You have to ask him. I couldn't even begin to tell you. Bob Arum already told you the 80 million pounds and $100 million was bullshit. Okay. So Sean, I'm giving you facts. I'm talking to people. Okay, Nestor Gibbs is talking to people. We're getting answers to questions that you're not getting. All you're doing is taking things you heard, or you're looking for basically confirmation bias, and you're basically saying things that you don't know what you're talking about. Listen to you, Beeb. You are being fair. I'm not a Wilder fanboy. You're just what you're trying to do now is you're trying to just be a contrarian. I picked Fury to beat Wilder. I had Fury beating Wilder. I picked Fury to beat Wilder in the rematch. How am I a Wilder fanboy? What we do know is the 80 million is bullshit. What we do know is Fury can't choose his own fights. What we do know is in order to make the Wilder fight, they wanted to lock him in to a multi-fight deal and sign over promotional rights to Top Rank. Those are facts. Can you refute any of those facts? You can't. You can't. You can't refute any of those facts. Another thing you can't refute is Fury has no opponents. He's got Pulev, Rivas, Jennings, and Parker. That's who he has. That's who he has. But no one cares about those fights. No one cares about those fights. Wilder fights Brazil next, and he gets Joshua after that, and he gets a rematch after that. No one's even going to give a fuck about Fury. You are a fanboy for Bob Arum and Top Rank. That's what you are. You're a PBC hater. You'll hate everything PBC. You always will go against a Heyman fighter, Sean. You will. You will. Talk about how shitty ESPN schedule has been compared to PBC schedule. No one's talking about that. There's a bias against PBC. There is. I criticize both sides. I think the decision in the Wilder fight was horrible. No way do I think that fight was a fucking draw. I have the proof. Go back and listen to my podcasts. But I'm being objective. I don't think this ESPN deal really is good for Fury right now. If he can't choose his fights and he doesn't have guaranteed minimums. Explain to me how that's a good deal. I don't have to see the contract. Bob already told me that he doesn't have guaranteed minimums. It's already been confirmed that ESPN did not want the rematch next unless they could lock Wilder into multi-fights. It's already been confirmed. You think I'm going to see a contract? I already got answers to the question. So you're trying to tell me that you know more than Bob Arum? I talked to him on the phone. There is no contract. There was a proposal sent over. Bob Arum doesn't even know the terms to Fury's contract. If Bob Arum, who signed the guy, doesn't even know, go back and listen to the interview. He said, I couldn't even begin to tell you how much he's going to be getting per fight. If you asked me the numbers, I couldn't even answer you. Go listen to the fucking interview. Listen to the fucking interview. Come on, I'm giving you facts. I'm giving you evidence. I'm giving you proof. I interviewed the guy and specifically talked to him about the deal last week. Okay? What is there to argue about? I have the facts. There's no guaranteed minimums. And go back and listen to Eddie Hearn's interview yesterday with Nestor Gibbs. We are prepared to offer Wilder $15 million for a voluntary defense. And then we will give him the Joshua fight right after that. And we can even do it in the U.S. And we can even give him a bigger split than 40%. Go back and listen to that interview. You're fucking picking and choosing. You're cherry picking what you want. You're looking for confirmation bias. Just concede the point that you're wrong. You're wrong here, Sean. You're wrong. You have to admit that you're wrong here. This is why the internet's a beautiful thing. This is why the internet's a beautiful thing. Because we can interview people and put it out there, and they're on tape, they're on video saying things, and that's basically, it's etched in stone. Once you put yourself out there and say things, you can't take it back unless you contradict yourself. Now, the promoters lie. Does Eddie Hearn lie? The fighters lie? Yeah. But all we can go by is what is put in front of us. That 80 million pounds is bullshit. That $100 million is bullshit. Can you admit that? Can you admit that, Sean? Or is your ego too proud? Are you too proud to admit, yeah, B probably, B, you're making a good point there, B. Can you can't. You can't. You can't. So much for B being a Wilder fanboy. I've been riding with, I picked Fury to beat Klitschko. I've been a Fury fan since 2000. I've been basically talking about Fury since 2014. And in 2015, I said he was going to be the best heavyweight in the world. But I have to be objective here. I don't like this move. I don't think it's a good move. How can this be a good move? If you're not going to get Wilder or Joshua until 2021. How can this be a good move? Or maybe you won't get him until the beginning of 2022. How can this be a good move? I'm waiting, Sean. Answer my questions. How is this a good move for Fury? Doesn't have guaranteed minimums, doesn't have good opponents, and he can't choose his fights. How is this a fucking good move? Anyone objectively answer me those questions. How is that a good move? Explain to me how that's a good move. I'm waiting. Anyone in the chat, explain to me how that's a good move. That's all I want to know. That's all I want to know. Can anyone answer me that question? Fury didn't duck Wilder. He was training for the fight. People came and whispered in his ear the magnitude of a rematch and the value that he has. What value does he have? What value does he have? The only value he has if he beats Wilder or he beats Joshua. His value is not going to go up by beating Kubrat Pulev. Nobody cares about that. Let's be real about it. Let's be real about it. This is a guy who is retired and has read the contract and felt good enough about to sign it and give him. What leverage does he have in the U.S.? Explain to me the leverage, Sean. Explain to me the leverage. His value is top 3. Top 3 of what? What does that mean, his value is top 3? I just explained to you. He doesn't have the opponents. He doesn't have guaranteed minimums, and he can't pick and choose his fighters. How is that? He's with the biggest sport network. So what? So what? What does that mean? He's with the biggest sport network. So is ESPN bigger than Fox? Fox is at 95% of the homes in the United States. Does ESPN have more subscribers than Fox? And PBC's got to deal with Fox. You tell me what's a better deal. What network would you rather be on? Fox, where everyone with a television can watch you? You don't even need a cable box to watch Fox. Or would you rather be on ESPN? Look at all the Fox numbers compared with the ESPN numbers. Errol Spence's last fight against Ocampo did more viewership than Terence Crawford's fight against friggin' what's his name there? Ramirez. Or Benavidez, excuse me. Fox is just a startup with only PBC fighters. What the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about, Fox is a startup company? You think Fox is a new channel? Fox has been around for longer than fucking ESPN. What are you talking about? Fox is way bigger than ESPN. Now you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I can't even have an intelligent conversation with you. PBC has been killing Top Rank right now. You're going to sit there and tell me, what do you mean it's a startup in boxing? They've been in boxing for 4 years now. So what? And you're not going to sit there and tell me Fox's production is not better than ESPN's production? What are you fucking talking about? What difference does that make? You mean to tell me that you actually believe that ESPN reaches more homes than Fox does? All you got to do is look at Errol Spence's last fight versus Terence Crawford's last fight. Errol Spence's last fight did more. PBC is killing Top Rank right now. Let's just be honest. The PBC schedule hasn't been great, but it's still been 10 times better than fucking ESPN's. ESPN was in boxing a long time ago. Then they got out of it. Then they went back into it. If you want to count those ESPN Friday night bullshit fights, that's fine. But I'm talking about ESPN did not make a commitment back into boxing. Spence did more than Crawford's fight, viewer-wise. They aren't better than ESPN. How do you mean? No, but Crawford versus Benavidez did less viewers than Spence's. Plant whipped Ramirez and ESPN. Ha ha. Friday night fights. BS. Oh my God. Friday night fights is bullshit. Those were all mismatches. Come on. Come on. Stop it. If you think ESPN is bigger than Fox, then you don't know what you're talking about. PBC's shows have outperformed ESPN shows. So, Sean, tell me about the ESPN schedule. Tell me about the ESPN schedule, because you're biased. Tell me about the ESPN schedule. What fights are you looking forward to on the ESPN schedule? What fights right now are bigger than Spence versus Garcia? What fights are bigger than that? Explain to me. ESPN re-entered the market. I'm objective here. I'm being objective. Explain to me what ESPN fights are better than PBC fights right now. PBC really isn't committed to boxing. They're committed more to the UFC. Fox just has boxing on it. That's what you're missing. Okay? ESPN has committed more to the UFC than they have boxing. They're sharing boxing with UFC. Okay? So explain to me, let's go over the schedule. Let's pull up the ESPN schedule, and you tell me what fights are better than the PBC fights. Name me one fight right now that Top Rank is doing that is better than Spence Garcia. Name one. Name one fight that was better than Pacquiao Broner. Look Vosdick is fighting. Look who Vosdick is fighting next. He's fighting in Philadelphia in front of 2,000 people on I think it's going to be on the app too. ESPN is pay-per-view. Spence is a pay-per-view cherry pick. So you don't think Mikey Garcia is a better fighter than Amir Khan, who Crawford's fighting next? You don't think so? You don't think so? You're not going to tell me that PBC schedule right now is not bad. Look, honestly answer this question. Do you think ESPN's schedule is better than PBC schedule right now? Be honest. Can anyone answer that? Do you actually believe that? Do you actually believe that? Do you actually believe that? Sean, you're too biased, brother. You got to be objective here. Let's really look at it for what it is. Sean Newton just said ESPN schedule is better than PBC schedule right now. So what fights on what name one fight on ESPN that you're actually looking forward to? What fight are you looking forward to? The Caleb Plant. So you didn't like the Caleb Plant Uzgataki fight? You didn't think that Darrell fight last week was great? That was an awesome fight. Who's Vosdick fighting next? Dudu? Come on, man. You got an agenda, Sean. You're never ever gonna say anything positive about the PBC or an Al Haymon fighter. You won't do it. You won't do it. You have an agenda. The guy can't answer anything honestly. He can't. So what fights on ESPN right now are better than the PBC fights? Name them. Name them. Name them. No, okay, so why are you shitting on? I have videos praising BBC and Al Haymon. So why are you shitting on them now? You can't honestly say that it's better to fight on ESPN than it is to fight on Fox when Fox reaches more homes. Can't say that. You can't say that it's better to be on to have a deal with Fox who's making a commitment solely to boxing, where ESPN, you still haven't said a great PBC card that isn't PBC. What do you mean? Why would a PBC card not be PBC? I don't understand that. I don't understand that. Wilder has fought on Fox too. He can fight on Fox. Wilder can fight wherever he wants. To be fair, there hasn't been any great fights on either side yet, but there's been better fights on PBC. There's been better fights on PBC. Look at the ratings. Fox does better ratings than ESPN because it's in more homes. It's impossible not for Fox to do better ratings. It's impossible. Fox is in 95% of the households in the United States. 95%. You can buy a TV and plug it in without even having cable, and you get Fox. They're going to pull all the fighters off Showtime and put them on Fox. I will say this. I do believe that as time goes on, more and more fights will be on Fox as opposed to Showtime. I do believe that. Yes. And if you look at last year and this year, these fights on PBC have been better than the ESPN fights. You can't name. I'm asking you to name one ESPN fight like that is better than a PBC fight this year. Name one fight that you're looking forward to. I know PBC has a 3-fight deal with Showtime, but what I am saying is eventually, I think we'll see less fights on Showtime and more fights on Fox. I think Fox will continue to put on more fights, where Showtime over time will probably put on less. Showtime will close like HBO. I don't think so. I think they'll definitely show less fights. I think their budget will shrink. It only makes sense that their budget will shrink because of the competition that's out there. You know, the market has been pretty much diluted. I think now with the addition of Fox and ESPN, who really who have made some commitments here, I think that Showtime will lose some dates. But Sean, I mean, you got to be honest here. You know, Fox is a bigger platform than ESPN. You know, PBC has been putting on better shows. Can we say that there hasn't been any great fights this year yet? There's been some very good fights, and there's been some fights on paper that we thought weren't going to be good, like that Darrell Yildirim fight wasn't. I didn't think it was going to be a great fight. It turned out to be a very entertaining fight. That the Gale Eubank fight was a very entertaining fight. So those are two fights like that was a good fight. PBC hasn't put great fights on Fox. They've put good fights on Fox. The fights that they've put on Fox have been better than the ESPN fights. Has ESPN put out great fights, Sean? Name me one great fight that ESPN put out this year. Name me one ESPN card that you think was better than a Fox card or a PBC card. Ramirez versus Cepeda was good. It was okay. Okay, but Al Heyman has Showtime. He has Fox. He has IFL. He has ITV over in the UK now. He has Fox Sports 1. Al Heyman has more platforms than any other than Top Rank does. These cards have been deep with tons of great up and comers. Name some. You're not naming me any cards though. You're not naming me any cards on ESPN that stood out this year. You're not giving me proof that ESPN has been better than PBC. Give me some examples. Ramirez is going to fight Beltran next. Is that a good fight? Really? Lopez has blown up. What do you mean Lopez has blown up? Explain that. I mean, plus it's only February too. That is true. But look at ESPN's schedule. It's trash. Let's open it up. ESPN boxing schedule. Let's see what we got here. Michael Conlon versus Ruben Hernandez. Kubrat Pulev versus Bogdan Dinu. This fight, Conlon fights trash. The Kubrat Pulev fights trash. Vosdik versus Nagumbo. That's trash. Lomachenko versus Krella. Not bad. It's okay. Not great. Terrence Crawford versus Amir Khan. Not great. Okay. Burchelt versus Vargas. Francisco Vargas. That's okay. They're all okay. Like there's no great cards. And look at the fight we're getting on Showtime. We're getting the best female fight that's out there. We're getting Clarissa Shields versus Christina Hammer. That's an awesome fight. No, you don't, Sean. You don't really believe the ESPN cards are good. I don't think you. I think you're lying. Sean's trolling. Sean's just coming on here to just say the opposite of whatever I say. He doesn't believe that. Clarissa Shields and Christina Hammer aren't the two best fighters in the middleweight division right now. Sean, you know what? You're a troll. You're a troll. You're saying things that just don't make sense. Sean's going to continue to lie and just be racist and just be anti-black and anti-Al Heyman. He thinks that there's better middleweights out there than Christina Hammer and Clarissa Shields, but he can't name them. Can't name them. He really can't name them. PBC has all the champions. You're racist. You're racist, and you're anti-PBC and you're anti-black. You have to be. You have to be. If you're saying these things, if you're saying that Clarissa Shields and Christina Hammer aren't the two best middleweights in the world in female boxing, then you can't name me another better middleweight out there, then you're just lying. PBC has all the welterweights. They have all the junior middleweights. They have all the super middleweights. They have a great deal of light heavyweights. They have a good amount of cruiserweights. What division? Yeah, Newton does know very little about boxing, EJ. He's just a troll. He's emotional. ESPN has all the 175-pounders. Do they have better beef? Do they have Bivol? They have better beef than Bivol? Really? Do they have Marcus Brown? Come on. They have all the belts at 135? Yeah, they got Lomachenko. They have Lomachenko. But Garcia had the other belt. Better beef, I believe, is a DAZN fighter. Or did he go to ESPN? Don't have Bivol and Better beef. They're DAZN fighters. ESPN has Vosdik. That's it. They have Ramirez at 168. They don't have a lot of fighters. ESPN. PBC has all the fighters. Even DAZN has better fighters than ESPN right now. ESPN has better beef. I thought DAZN had better beef. Let me look at that. He's fighting Joe Smith. Let's see where he's fighting Joe Smith. Beterbiev is fighting Joe Smith his next fight, I believe. Matchroom star Eddie Boxing and Star Boxing Joe DeGuardia met on Friday to discuss an Artur Beterbiev Joe Smith fight. Yeah, he's Artur Beterbiev is a Matchroom fighter. He's a DAZN fighter. You're wrong. He is DAZN. Bivol is fighting Smith. That's correct. I apologize. But Beterbiev is a Matchroom fighter. Artur Beterbiev, top rank. Oh, I apologize. I apologize. Artur Beterbiev did sign with Top Rank in February. I apologize. I retract that statement. But then it says here, okay, Artur Beterbiev to lead the zone with new deal. I see, Sean? When I'm wrong, I admit it. Why can't you admit it? Why can't you admit it? Why can't you admit it, Sean? Beterbiev did sign with Top Rank in February. So they got Beterbiev and they got you don't know boxing because for every one right thing you say 50 wrong things. You said ESPN has it reaches more homes than Fox, which is impossible because ESPN it has to be purchased through a cable subscription where Fox is free. Kovalev, they also have Alito Alvarez. Kovalev, I believe, is still with Kathy Duva. Yes, you did. You said ESPN's bigger than Fox. It's in the chat. Everyone heard it. It's the biggest sports platform. It's not the biggest platform, though. You ever see Fox, the NFL they have, Major League Baseball? They have the sports that are shown on Fox do way better ratings than sports that are shown on ESPN. It's just a fact. Can you at least admit that Fox overall is a bigger platform than ESPN? Can you admit that, Sean? So I don't have to fucking admit you to a mental hospital. Can you at least admit that Fox reaches more homes than ESPN and it's a bigger platform? Yes or no? Can you admit that? Can you admit that? So Beterbiev just recently signed to Top Rank, so that's a good signing. I'll give him that. Okay, thank you, Sean. Thank you. At least we found common ground here. Now, do you honestly think though? Do you honestly think that ESPN schedule is better than that PBC schedule? Just be honest now, please. Please be honest. I actually think that. Be real now. Be honest and tell me, can you tell me one ESPN fight that you're looking forward to more? Like right now, honestly, the fight I'm looking forward to a lot, the depths of the card are better. Like, explain the depths of the card are better. What does that mean? What does that mean, the depths of the card? What does that mean? Pay-per-view is where all the good PBC fights are going. Okay, so name me the good ESPN cards. Is Pulev Danu a good card? That's a good fight. Is that a good fight? Would Pulev Danu attract more people than Wilder Brazil? If they put Wilder. What do you mean deeper talent? Like name me the talent. What are you talking about? They're all showcase fights, the undercards. Okay, Lopez is great, but he's fighting showcase fights. He's not fighting another good fighter. They're showcase fights. They're all showcase fights. You don't, Sean, honestly, I'm being objective. You're not being objective. I told you that. But those Charlo fights were good. That Charlo fight, that Jamal Charlo fight, and that Jamel Charlo fight versus Harrison was a good fight. I actually thought Harrison won. And Jamal's fight was good too. Those were both good fights. Most undercards are showcase fights. You have 2 or 3 competitive fights on a card, and the bottom half of the card's always showcase fights. So you have to look at the top of the card, Sean. The top of the card is what sells the event, not the undercard. People pay for the main event. You can't tell me, you cannot. You know what? He hasn't answered my question. Okay? Yeah, he is. He's just going to take the opposite side. He'll never agree with me. If I started saying the ESPN cards are better than the PBC cards, then he would turn around and say the PBC cards are better. He'll always take the opposite side. At least I got him to admit. It took me a good 30 minutes for him to admit that Fox is a bigger platform than ESPN. I had to convince him of that because he was denying it in the beginning. Yeah, we did. We agreed on one thing. But you know the PBC schedule is better. You know that. Is Sean a racist? He comes off as being racial, but I don't think he hates black people. I don't think Sean is a racist. I think he's racial sometimes. I think because he doesn't like a lot of the channels that support PBC fighters. He says a lot of racial things. I'll be. Do I know deep? Do I think Sean's deep in his heart a racist? I don't know. That's tough. Am I sure, B? No, I'm not sure he's not a racist. I don't want to believe that he's a racist. I hope he's not. That's all I can say. Do I know 100% sure that he's not? I don't know. Don't put that cone on anyone. I can't put that cone on anyone. I can't. Sean is not a racist. Centurion Son says he has no black friend. Sean, I'm glad, I welcome you to come on the channel anytime and talk, but okay, the best fights are on pay-per-view. Sean, can I ask you a question? Aren't generally the biggest fights in boxing always on pay-per-view? Aren't they? Aren't they, Sean? Aren't the biggest fights in boxing always on pay-per-view, yes or no? So no one's really put any. I don't think PBC has put great fights on this year, but they've put on very good fights. But they're still better than ESPN's cards. They're better. They're better fights, Sean. You have to admit it. Come on. You have to admit it. Wasn't PBC giving us only free fights? No, when did PBC said they were never going to deal with Showtime anymore? PBC is giving you free fights. They're giving you fights on Fox. Fox is free. ESPN is not. You have to have cable to have ESPN. Fox you can watch anywhere. They are giving us. Nobody match makes like Top Rank. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean no one match makes? They do have good matchmaking. They build fighters. But their cards have been horrible. So you're looking forward to Pulev Danu right now? You're looking forward to Vosdik Dudu? You're looking forward to those fights? I don't hate. All of a sudden HBO closed. Now all the big PBC fights are pay-per-view. What do you mean all the big PBC fights are pay-per-view? Sean, the big names are going to be on pay-per-view. They're going to be on pay-per-view. Danny Garcia, And Sean Porter's fighting Ugas. That's a good fight. That's not pay-per-view. DeGale versus Eubank Jr. wasn't pay-per-view. That was a good fight. That was better than any fight that ESPN put on that week. That was the best. That was the best. That was the best fight of the weekend. That was a PBC card. That was on Showtime. That was the best card of the weekend last week. That wasn't pay-per-view. That was a big fight. That was a big fight. That was a big card. Sean. Oh, so now it was pay-per-view in the UK. So all the DAZN fights are pay-per-view in the UK, pretty much. So what? Top Rank is putting on a pay-per. Their biggest fight of the year is going to be on pay-per-view too. So why are you being a hypocrite, Sean? Why is Khan versus Crawford pay-per-view? Why? So name me the good fights on the Pulev Janu undercard. Name me some of these. Name me the good fighters. Name me some of the good undercard fights on these ESPN cards. Name them. Name one undercard fight that's been eventful this year. Yeah, the debate is making no progress. Because so Aram has always pushed pay-per-view. Okay, so if Aram has always pushed pay-per-view and he signed an ESPN deal to put fights on regular television, so if he's always been pay-per-view, Khan Crawford was rejected by Sky as pay-per-view. Now Hooker, I believe, is also a DAZN fighter. But he was on Top Rank. That was a good fight. It was an okay fight. It wasn't a great fight. It was a good fight. But yeah, this debate is going nowhere. Sean is going to continue. Anyone other than Sean think that ESPN has been putting on better shows than PBC this year? Anyone else? Anyone else besides Sean? Besides biased, anti-PBC, anti-Al Heyman Sean? Because I'm going to get ready to take off here because this is kind of going around in circles. No. Bernard Gort says no. Anyone else? Anyone else think that Top Rank? Nathan says no. Take a Grip says no. Anyone else? EJ says no. Unrivaled Boxing Talk and News says no. Ralph Dawkins Combat Radio says nope. Early to tell. PBC cards are thin though. Yeah, they're not great. Tone says no. Jester Valentine says no. So Sean, you're like a 0.5%. You're a 0.5% of the public that thinks that ESPN's doing better than PBC. So judging by if this poll right here is any indication, if this poll is any indication of how the public perceives both cards or both networks' cards, then Sean, PBC's kicking the shit out of ESPN. Sean, you're not having an objective opinion. You've taken a side, and you're gonna hold that line. You will never put PBC over Top Rank or ESPN ever. You will always find a way to try to down PBC. So it is what it is. Most guys on your channel are huge PBC fans who hate on DAZN or ESPN. I don't think so. I get a lot of UK people who always come on here and argue with me about Eddie Hearn and DAZN and tell me how. Well, there's not a lot of ESPN fans anymore, Sean. There is a lot of DAZN fans. A lot of UK people that come on here. ESPN is way bigger as a sports channel than Fox is. That's kind of a weird thing to say because ESPN is a sports channel. That's all they show. So they show more. They show sports 24 hours a day, where Fox doesn't. But can you tell me that a sports event that's shown on Fox doesn't do better ratings than a sports event that's shown on ESPN? I mean, all the events that have been shown on Fox outperform the ones that are shown on ESPN. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. It can't be refuted. It's a bigger platform. ESPN has the two top pound for pound guys in the sport, though. You can argue that. Who in their right mind would say ESPN has better fights than PBC? Newton. He would say it. He's the only one. He's the only one person out of the 20 people that answered. So one in 20 people actually believe that ESPN is better than Fox, which is crazy. Which is better. It's better than PBC. But Sean doesn't really believe it. He's just saying it because he's basically being emotional. He's on a team. He's on a side. He'll never be objective. On your channel. What's on my channel, Sean? What are you talking about? I think the zone has the two top. PBC has damn near all the champions because ESPN works with other promoters. Sean, how could they work with other promoters where they wouldn't do the Wilder fight unless Wilder signed a multi-fight deal with them? What are you talking about? PBC has more champions than any other boxing promotional company out there. That's the truth. PBC has more champions. They have the most champions. You can't argue that. You can't argue that, Sean. You can't argue that PBC doesn't have more champions. Sean says Warren's taken, and the Mexicans are all working with top-ranking ESPN. Sean, what's this? What is this Mexican like? What are you so fixated on race for? What what does that mean? They have all the Mexican fighters. What like? I mean, I try to defend you, but you constantly say racial things. Like, what does that mean? Like, why is that like? Why does that even matter? All right. Well, Mexican promoter forgot the name. Whatever. I don't care. All right, guys. That's about it right now, man. I made my points. I'm not crazy about this Fury deal with ESPN. The more I look at it, the more I think about it. I don't think it's a great deal. I think it has a lot of limitations to it. I don't think it's cracked up all it's cracked up to be. But until next time, Beeb is out. Make sure you check out the Ringside Reporter podcast every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where we recap and we preview the upcoming fights and recap the fights that happened during the past weekend. Until next time, Beeb is out. Talk to y'all soon. Have a great day, baby. Take care.